2006 Chrysler PT Cruiser Touring Edition. Insert original girl car joke here. Behold, the car that was to save Plymouth. But it was never given a chance. Yes, it sold millions across the globe as a Chrysler, but this car was supposed to be a Plymouth from the start. To understand why this car exists, we have to explain where Plymouth was in the 90s. It was long sold as Chrysler's value brand. However, since the 1970s, it had been mostly reduced to being a value rebadge of Dodges and Chryslers. By the time the 90s rolled around, its image was worse than any of the crap GM was doing among its 20 brands at the time. So, in the early 1990s, Chrysler had come up with a resurrection plan for the sad mark. Chrysler, as a company, was hitting home run after home run at this time. The successful purchase of the Jeep brand, the 94 Dodge Rams, the curvy LH and Cloud cars that smashed the company's K-car identity, and the spunky little Neon that was taking on the imports. Next was to give Plymouth its own identity again. The styling was first introduced in 1997 with the 30s hot rod-inspired Prowler. That same year, they previewed a cute little hatchback concept called the Pronto. Both were a smashing success, and plans were for what was to be the PT Cruiser to be next in Plymouth's new line of retro-inspired cars. They had a whole fleet planned, but it was not to be. But they hit a snag. In 1998, Chrysler would merge with the Daimler Corporation, and the Germans put a halt on all new models, no matter how close they were to production. They did this in order to get the Americans' quote-unquote sloppy production choices back in check and get things up to their higher standards. This, of course, would delay multiple projects, including the second generation Neon and the PT Cruiser, both that were, at the time, close to being in production. In 1999, the new Daimler Chrysler Corporation, well, mostly influenced by the Germans in this decision, decided Plymouth was both far too gone and not worth saving. Actually, that's the same thing. I'm bad with words. Anyways, this is mostly because, to them, Plymouth was not a global brand like Chrysler. Only Americans and Canadians got them. So, they didn't feel the need to keep it. This meant the little hatch meant to save Plymouth would have to carry on as a Chrysler instead. That's enough talk for talking about a dead brand for one day. Let's talk about the PT Cruiser itself. It sits on a highly modified version of the Neon's PL platform, known exclusively as the PT platform. See what they did there? Well, most people will remember the 5-door hatch that populate everywhere in America. There was a short-lived convertible model that lasted from 2005 to 2008. On top of that, there was a panel version available for small business owners. This is a 2006 model and features the mid-cycle refresh that came out that year. This includes small updates to the headlights and grille, although most people would be hard-pressed to see the differences. Alright, before I get any further, I want to talk about the brilliant marketing that Chrysler did with this little car. They never considered it a car to the EPA. They called it a light truck to help skirt fuel emission standards. Calling it a truck lowered the overall average of Chrysler's truck/SUV fleet, which allowed Chrysler to not have to worry about the MPGs of their large trucks. Hell, even Allpar, which, by the way, is a fantastic source for anything Chrysler, calls it a small crossover. Now, in my opinion, this is akin to Toyota Matrix or the Pontiac Vibes being considered crossovers at the time. No, they are not. It's a small hatchback. You are not fooling me, Chrysler. You are not fooling me. There were two engines available in America, and both were descendants of Chrysler's old 2.2 four-banger from the 1980s. You could either get the 2.4-liter EDZ four-cylinder, or its turbo variant known as the EDZ/EDV. This particular car has the naturally aspirated EDZ, and it's okay. I'd honestly say it's perkier than the Ecotech in White Lightning, but that's not saying much. Chrysler's ancient UltraDrive 40TE 4-speed automatic sits in this car, and it shows its age bad. It hesitates badly on takeoff, and it definitely feels like an automatic from the 1980s. There was an available 5-speed produced by New Venture, and I'm kind of curious to see if that would help the on-road performance of this package. The suspension is basic, with McPherson struts in the front and a beam axle in the rear using coils and a Watts link. That rear suspension is one of the big changes from the Neon platform, which used struts on all 4 corners. The designers had intended to maximize the cargo capacity, and going to a beam axle allowed Chrysler to keep the floor as flat and low as possible. This is a huge plus for the PT, which makes it extremely versatile and roomy for such a little car. Bringing up White Lightning again, that car is extremely cramped in the rear. While not nearly as bad as, say, as a Mark III Jetta, it's still not recommended for an adult to sit back there. In the back of the PT Cruiser, my 6'3" frames fit good. I was comfortable. I wouldn't mind riding in the back of this thing. It was definitely a early 90s Chrysler design, as they made small cars with large interiors. As for the handling, it's decently tossable, and fun to drive in that fast, slow car sense. Inside is okay for a 2000s American interior. It's gray and the plastics feel cheap, but it's still better than that gray on 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 gray interior in White Lightning. At least Chrysler tried to give the PT Cruiser some sort of fake class when designing the interior. You get an interior clock! That doesn't keep time very well. You tried, Chrysler. You tried. There's more bits of effort in the interior design, like the color-matched dash, the little heads-up display in the fuel/temperature cluster, those weird little dots in the front door panels, the center-mounted window controls like a Firebird, and this really, really, really stout, oh shit handle on the passenger side. It isn't Volkswagen nice, but for a cheap car, it's a halfway decent interior, and that's all you could really ask for. Overall, it's a decent little car. There are 2 primary issues, though. 1. Are you man enough to be seen driving the quintessential girl's car? If so, then good for you. And 2, these things are an extremely pain in the ass to work on. Like, come on, look how crammed that engine is. It's like they started with the engine and built the whole car around it. Chrysler's Cloud cars were known for being a pain in the ass to work on, but this takes it to a whole nother level. This car itself has had a multitude of alternator issues in the past, and the owner has made it quite clear that it was a pain to work on at the time. The Chrysler PT Cruiser is a very easy car to hate. For the longest time, it has been the car world's punching bag. It has been a punchline for any guy. And how can it not when it looks so, finger quotes, cute? It screams girl car with that cute face. And heck, this one was owned by a girl. But I can't hate it. It's not really a bad little car. It's a solid little car that drives decent. And it's not a bore to drive. And is extremely practical. How can I hate it for doing its job well? Yeah, it's had a little bit of issues, but that's okay. Any car that's 12 years old will have some little issues. Car guys have been screaming for more hatchbacks for ages now. And when Chrysler gave us one, we all laughed. But maybe Chrysler had the last laugh, as they sold a crap ton of these things over the course of 10 years. Thank you for sitting through another episode of Wookie Drives. These videos are the most time-consuming of the ones I do, but for me, they're the most fun to make. I love looking into the history of supposedly born and forgotten cars. I just love researching that kind of stuff, and it's honestly fun for me. I'd like to thank Megan of Mooresville, North Carolina for using the PT Cruiser for this video. I could not continue this series without people like you allowing me to drive your cars. Anyways, be sure to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Check out the official channel Facebook page for channel updates and such. Anyways, thanks for all the support, and have a good day.